Hey, science peeps, it's Miss CG back. We're going to go over chapter 1, lesson 2, the end of that, the organization of living things today. So I feel like I haven't done this in forever. It's probably only been last week, but sometimes these days just seem to go by so slow, and sometimes they go by so fast. So, anyway, today we had a really, if you guys were able to see it, some people I saw on Google, you were messaging that some people saw it, some people didn't. We had the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds fly over our area. Um, I know they came over my house a couple times, but I wasn't able to see them the first time. The second time, like around, I don't know, like 1:55, I think they came by right over my house. I have some pictures that I took over here. It's really cool because we talked about the Blue Angels earlier in the semester when we talked about velocity. So they all have to know their speed in a given direction so they don't crash, and they did a great job. So anyway, you can check out those pictures if you want. Let's get started on today. So we're going in here, and we're going to be doing chapter 1, lesson 2, the this one here, the organization of living things. Okay. Oops. I started doing this a little early. Okay. So I made a little mistake up here. It should say on your paper pages 20 to 21, and accidentally I put 21 to 22. So just letting you know, it's pages 20 to 21. I did fix it over here. So let's go over to the workbook and let's talk about some vocabulary for our quiz next week. So we have two words that we're going to talk about: multicellular and unicellular. So multicellular means many cells, right? Multi, the prefix means many. And then unicellular, like a unicycle has one wheel. So it's a single celled organism. And humans, dogs, cats, most I shouldn't say most, but the organisms that you see all day long are multicellular organisms. The organisms that are unicellular are usually so small you need a microscope to see them. All right, so let's go down here and let's look at some different cells. This is our figure 6 activity, and it says many cells in plants and animals carry out specialized functions. So write the number of each kind of cell in the circle of the matching function. Okay, so what I'm just going to have you do on the activity is write the numbers in the order that they should be here. So here's the function: 4 functions, 4 different kinds of cells. So the first one says animal cells that can bend and squeeze easily through narrow spaces. So take a look at these pictures. And which of these cells looks like they are bending? And as you look, I'm going to give you a second. So you might have guessed that it is number 1. What you're seeing here are red blood cells going through your blood vessels, and you see this one's kind of curvy and bending. So you're going to go, and for figure 6, the first number we're going to write down is 1. All right, so let's go to the next one. Animal cells that can relay information to other cells. So as we take a look at these pictures, when we talk about relaying information, we're really talking about nerve cells. The fact that I'm speaking right now and I can move this mouse around, or that you can listen and write. Your brain is telling your fingers to type on the keyboard. That involves your nerve, your brain functions. So if you're not familiar with looking at it, which you're probably not, the one that is most likely, it is a nerve cell, would be number 4. Okay, these are like nerve cells. So we're going to write as our next number 4. Okay. So now we're on to plant root cells that can absorb water and minerals from the soil. So take a look at these pictures. We've already eliminated 1 and 4. Which one looks like its roots going into the ground? And you might guess that would be number 3, because it looks like these could be roots. So our next number would be 3. Oops. And then, yeah, you're like, okay, let me just write 2. But let's just take a look at it real quick. The last one says plant cells that can make food. And we've talked about this picture a lot before. These are, it's rectangularish, and those are the chloroplasts in there. All right. So let's move on to figure 7. So here, and this is going to help you with a project. We're going to be doing a cell project at the end of chapter one, and it's going to be for a test grade. So one of your projects is going to be to make a poster and compare the organelles in a cell to make an analogy for it. So to compare it to a school or to a factory or to something like a shopping center or something like that. So we're going to do something similar, just in a different way with the organization of living things in our body. So let's take a look at this passage here. And it says cells work together at, and there's a different division of labor and a different system of organization in our body. So in multicellular organisms, cells are organized into tissues, organs, and organ systems. So these are all vocabulary that you're going to have to know. A tissue is a group of similar cells that work together to perform a specific function. So, for example, your brain is made up of nerve tissue. So, there's all these cells that come together that perform a certain function, and those cells make up brain tissue, nerve tissue. Okay, the next one is organ. An organ, we're going to keep it the same analogy, your brain is made of different kinds of tissues. So your brain is not just one kind of cell or one kind of tissue. It's a bunch of different things. And so that's what an organ is. Tissues, different kinds of tissues that come together to perform a specific function. And that would be for your brain. You could think of it as your lungs. Lungs are made up of certain kinds of tissue, which are made up of similar kinds of cells. And then the last one here is an organ system. It is a group of organs that work together to perform a major function. So if you think of your respiratory system, you have in the respiratory system are your heart, your lungs, your blood vessels, the blood. You can even put that in there. So those are different kinds of organs, which are made up of different kinds of tissues, but they all work together to perform the function of the respiration in your body. All right, so now that we've talked about that, here we have cell, bunch of similar cells that come together with a certain function, make up tissues, a bunch of tissues, either similar tissues that all work together to perform a certain function, make up an organ. So here's your lung. And then we only have two lungs, but an organ system, okay, is organs that come together to perform a certain function. And then here we have organism. So it's all of your organ systems working together to make you work. So we're going to do this analogy of the end result, like the organism is going to be the school. So what can we say that a cell is similar to? So let me start you off. We could say that our cell is like a desk, because remember, our end result is going to be classroom. So let's go here, and what you're going to do for figure 7 is a cell equals a desk. Okay. So now, if a cell is like a desk, what could the tissues represent? So you have a bunch of desks together. So when you have a bunch of desks in a certain room, what do you have? You have a classroom. So you could say that a tissue is similar to a classroom. So we could say tissue equals. All right. So now the next one is organ. So we have a bunch of similar tissues that come together to make an organ. So for this one, we could say, if you have a bunch of classrooms, what are you going to have? You're going to have your hallway. So you can say your organ could be like B Hall in our school. Now you're finding out how awful of a typer I am still. All right. And then the last one here we have is organ system. Remember, our end result school. So when you have, like B Hall, what if we have as our organ system? That could be all of the halls, A, B, C, and D halls. And then our last one, which they showed us here, we have all the halls that come together. What does it make? It makes your school. Okay, so that's like an analogy for all the parts of the organization in our body. All right, let's move on to figure two, sorry, 2A, assess your understanding. It says, what does the term division of labor mean as it is used in this lesson? Okay, so right here it says a division of labor occurs among specialized cells in an organ. It can also occur at other levels of organization, and that we talked about cell, tissue, organ system. So when we talk about division of labor, what we're talking about is cells all performing a certain function to create the whole organism. So that's what we're going to write. So division of labor means all the cells form their own function. Okay. And so they when they all come together and perform the function that they're supposed to perform, you have a functioning organism. All right, so let's go take a look at 2B. And it says, would a tissue or an organ have more kinds of specialized cells? Explain your answer. So which one's more complex? Is a tissue more complex or is an organ more complex? So you might have guessed it. An organ is more complex. And why? Because it's made up of different kinds of tissues that are working together for a certain function. So we're going to write an organ complex because it is made up of. Okay. So the final thing that you have to do for this activity today is to go back over here. You're going to click on this activity, the organization of living things. You're only going to complete numbers 1 through 4 because number 5 is an open-ended question. And then you're finally going to turn in your doc on May 1st. Remember, like we don't want to turn it in every single day. We will only want to turn it in at the end because we have 5 activities. And then once you turn it in, I can check all 5 of them. All right, so today's activity is an individual practice grade. Come back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about tomorrow's quiz grade. But I do want to talk about, if we can go here, okay. That would have been funny if we were in the classroom, so don't worry about that. I just want to show you some different kinds of organs and organ systems. So this is an X-ray. We take a look at some bones. So a bone or a skeletal system is an organ system, and it's made up of similar kinds of organs, which are individual bones, and then tissues. Okay. Our bones are living things. There's blood vessels and nerves running through them. So that's why it hurts when you break a bone. So this is a broken bone in your leg. Here we see screws in an ankle. Okay, it's weight bearing, so they have to put that in there, and that stays in forever. Here we have a picture of your hands. But remember, so now we have a system here because we don't just have the bones, we have soft tissue. So working on here, but this hand is a normal hand, and this one you can see how the bones are curved. Okay, this hand has arthritis in it. It's the spaces in those joints there that um, you know are starting to erode. Okay, so now we have for the muscles, these are muscles, what did I say here? Skeletal. So these are the muscles of your skeleton. Okay, and there are 3 main kinds of muscles: skeletal muscles, and then we have our heart muscle, cardiac. They look similar but different. And the only place in our bodies that we find cardiac muscle is in our hearts. That's it. It beats your entire lives. It has to be, it never ever rests. So it has to be a very special kind of muscle. Even parts of your brain shut down when you're sleeping. So this is a very important, very specialized kind of muscle tissue. And then we have smooth muscle. That's the muscle in our like digestive system. It's the muscles that we don't have to think about, and they still work. So like when you lift your arm up, you're making your arm move up. You're thinking about making your arm move. When we digest food, we don't think, okay, let's digest food now. It just happens naturally. So here we have a joint, a healthy knee, and then this is a knee with arthritis. You can see these little spurs around there. Achilles tendon. So this is a regular tendon, and then this is an inflamed tendon. So this is when you have tendonitis in your Achilles tendon. Um, the integumentary system, that is your skin. The skin is the largest organ of our body. So yes, the skin is an organ, and look at all of these things that are in our skin. So it's not just this top layer that you see. There's lots to it, layers to it. We have our circulatory system. Okay, heart, lungs, blood vessels. No, our blood is not blue. I always get this question when, if you were in class, you would have asked me that. Horseshoe crabs have blue blood. Snails, slugs, earthworms. I don't know about snails, but slugs and earthworms have a bluish blood. But when you see these pictures in the doctor's office, what it's showing you is the red blood is supposed to be the oxygen rich blood, and the blue color is the oxygen poor. That's the blood going back into the heart and lungs. The lungs put oxygen back into the blood. The heart pumps that now the red blood around our body. But no, our blood is not blue when it's inside our bodies. It's always red. Okay. So here we have, look at all the veins and capillaries and arteries in our, just in our lungs alone. It looks like a tree root system. It kind of shows us how we're related long ways back to trees and to plants. All right, next picture. Oh, look at this! All these blood vessels. This is from the museum. I forget what museum it is, but it had all um, the body parts. Someone in class would have known this if we were in class, but these are all blood vessels. We're very complex. This is showing just when all these systems come together, how we are related through evolution. So here we have a fish embryo, okay, a salamander embryo. So you see these two look similar. Salamander and turtle look kind of similar. But take a look. This is a human on the end. Okay, when you're less than 8 weeks old, we look similar to a rabbit and to a chicken embryo and to a turtle embryo. Less so than the fish, but you can see how a rabbit is a mammal and we're a mammal, and how we look similar at this stage in life. Whoops. And as you get older, okay, we start looking less similar. This is when you're still in utero growing. So now we start really looking different from the fish and salamander. But look at these four: the turtle, the chicken, the rabbit, the human look more similar. And then down here, okay, as you get older in utero, you can see, so now the turtle and the chicken look so similar. The fish and the salamander look really similar. So you can see how closely they're related. And I'll take a look at the rabbit and the human, how similar they look. They're starting to look different. The older you get inside the womb, the more different now you're going to start to look from other organisms. But it's just amazing to see the development inside the body when we're this little, how you can tell who our ancestors are, where we came, who we're more closely related to. All right, so here we have, this is why we shouldn't eat too much animal fat, a healthy artery, and this is an artery that is going to have a blockage. So this is why people can have heart attacks and strokes, because you literally have this coating the inside of your blood vessels. And then that's why you have blockages. Digestive system. Okay. It's made up of all of these organs. So that's why it's a similar organs that work together for a certain function, make up a system. So this is the digestive system. Nervous system. We have lots of different things running through our body. This is a very simple picture of it, because as we saw with all the other blood vessels and the nerves, we have so many nerves running through everything in our body. Look at that juicy brain. Yum. Okay, here is a brain. This is a slice, like a cross section of a brain. But this is what makes us think. This is what makes us talk and make decisions. This little organ right here. Okay. And there's lots of nerves running through it. Fun fact, you can actually do brain surgery on someone and you can touch their brain and you wouldn't feel anything. But yeah, it's the brain that makes us feel, but the brain itself can't feel. Really cool fact. All right. Well, you're not going to go through all this. This is a lot of facts. I wouldn't have read this to you in class anyway. But these are all different systems in our body: muscular, skeletal, nervous system, endocrine system, um, circulatory system. Okay, this is going to be for tomorrow. Come back and see my next walkthrough, and I will tell you about this fun activity, which you'll have 10 days for. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. CG out.